Welcome back to Gamify, the podcast that focuses on gaming, art, music, esports, and film. We just had an amazing guest on, Ron Jones, who is the head of Indie Cluster to represent the gaming side. And now we're getting ready to transition into art. And with us, we have Mr. Dedren Snead.
Yeah, Dedren. So it's
Subsume.
Subsume. That name, you got to tell me a little bit more about that name, Subsume. But before we get into that, we have a simple question that I think inquiring minds would like to know. So, Dedren, when did you fall in love with video games?
Oh wow. The moment I fell in love with video games was probably Miss Pac-Man. So it started when I was a kid, and the rural Eastern North Carolina. Atari was my first love. Like that was it. That was just such a thing. And like video games itself, like the think of like the quarter arcades. That's just where like I was really just born and raised. And there was just there was only one video game in like our whole county. That kind of showed you we were very rural, out in the middle of nowhere. And at this small store was a Miss Pac-Man game, and like I just remember, just as a kid, just it was just everything to like just have a couple quarters in your pocket and walk like 2 miles down the road to this little
Wow.
one. We had this little one-stop town, and once it got street like town, and play Miss Pac-Man. And that, to my day, is probably one of my favorite games of all time. And from there, I just knew I wanted to learn how
That's
people
dope.
made the
That's
game.
dope.
Yeah, I've been chasing video games ever since.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? And I tell my students about that all the time.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So, you've already told us a lot about yourself in terms of being from North Carolina. I didn't know any of that about you. That's real dope. How did you get started? How did you get started in art? And I see is this art behind you? Is that yours? The pieces behind
Oh,
you?
well, it is a
Pieces
collection
behind you?
of fellow collaborators. With us on a lot of projects, we get the chance to connect and collaborate with a lot of different visual artists, digital artists, also writers and producers. So this is a kind of a wall of fame if we could start you with fellow collaborators. So none of this is my direct art in sense. I've done some design and some development in co-collaboration with most of the stuff behind us. But it's
Right.
a great kind of reminder of all the projects we've done and some things to come.
Very cool. So let's talk about Subsume then. How'd you get Subsume, going? What was the journey to Subsume for you?
And what's the significance of the name Subsume?
Yeah.
Well, subsume is, by English definition, means to include one thing into another. And so it's the idea of being included without effort. So versus saying things like diversity or inclusion, or having to make actual efforts to see things being included in a general or popular space, we take the idea of being subsumed in that space where we have our own gravity with our own art and entertainment and stories and mediums that bring clients and bring customers and fans to us. And so with that, it's a way for us to be part of the conversation by just doing the things that we're great at.
And see, that's what I'm talking about right there. The symbolism. A true writer is going to make sure that the symbolism in the name and the art really means something. So that's what I'm talking about. You better educate them. Better educate them.
How long has Subsume been around? And are you based? Where are you based? And how wide your reach?
Oh, that's a great question. So for us, Subsume is based here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're blessed to be in the Russell Center as one of their
Oh,
founding
yeah, no.
members, and for us, Subsume really was just the next logical step for myself as an independent creative, looking at the opportunity to not only be able to build story and build representation through art and through media, but looking at it as a career opportunity to develop other passions such as gaming and such as just social innovation. So I thought there was like a connection with a lot of the things that I've either been good at or been called on to do. and wanted to make this a space and a place that I could invite other creatives to be in a collaborative sense, a tide that would rise all boats. And so, being in the gaming space, for me, just to take a quick step
That's right.
back, I used to be a game tester over at Epic Games when I was back in North Carolina. So this is back with some very early stage stuff with them. The first two Gears of War, a lot of times through the early alts when North Carolina was with Red Hat and a couple other spaces, really trying to build their gaming ecosystem. So I did localization work and some other parts. But then in a move to Atlanta, really just try to put myself in the space of being a connector between gaming and education and technology. And so going a lot of our programs, even though we work in comics and animation for a lot of our stuff, looking to bring the gaming culture, particularly in esports, and showing how that can be connected with a lot of other mediums. So I feel like we were in the right space at the right time where a lot of this stuff started to intersect, and then it called for more clarity and more pronounced actions in esports and in this realm, and so that's where Subsume really became that transmedia platform in that sense.
Dope. That's really dope. Can you say more about the programs? What kinds of programs Subsume provides and services that Subsume provides to the community?
Yes, so Subsume primarily works as a turnkey creative agency that works through all points of those mediums again, art, animation, technology, and social development for clients such as Atlanta school systems. We've done work for Lexus. We've also worked with Georgia State and Georgia Tech in developing programs for creativity and for technology for their students as well. And what we're looking at from there is also just building community programs that engage and empower. Again, for an example, we have our Subsume Summit as an annual event that we're looking to expand out to 3 times this year. We work with the Auburn Avenue Research Library and bring in creators, particularly creators of color and those with marginalized voices, to kind of show them in arts and in media and in gaming. And so this will be our 3rd year of doing that. And so again, looking at also working with programs such as Fair Fight and Fair Count. But we had a chance to be on the creative council with leader Stacey Abrams during that run, as well as with the Democratic National Convention as a creative partner in their Georgia program as well. So again, looking at being able to find that intersect between gaming, between art, and between community is something that subsumes. It's just simply part of our DNA.
So with that, it's really interesting to hear how you're connecting the different parts. Where sometimes a lot of people don't think when we're talking about gaming or anime, cosplay, and all of those different areas, the music, the esports, all that stuff. People think it's separate and everything is on an island. But companies like yourself and ours, we're striving to make sure that we pull everybody together. When that and then so that sometimes becomes an obstacle for us. But this next question, especially now that we're in the midst of COVID, of course, everybody had that obstacle to try to overcome. But what have some of the things that you've been doing to over some of the obstacles you may have seen recently or in the past that you've met and you've overcome, and how did you overcome those obstacles, or what are you doing to work to overcome those obstacles?
Oh, absolutely. So for me with Subsume, we launched our program right in the midst of COVID last year. So kind of coming out as a platform, and some of our projects definitely was impacted and affected by COVID. So for us, looking at a lot of the in-person spaces to hold events, to have programs, a lot of that, of course, had been canceled and still is in that same sense. So for us, we really lent on our digital capabilities as well as working more into gaming and more into esports, which is a little bit more insulated from that, but also was a popular space to learn and keep engaged with not only our fans and folks that we wanted to get the message out to, but also a new client base. And so with that, we turned to doing digital events such as the Black Futures Month, which we actually just held yesterday as a kickoff and the kind of showcase in a virtual sense,
Right.
how we can still find ourselves included in all these programs and processes. So as other parts of our our portfolio as well as points of interest such as animation and art still aren't as affected as some, such as in-person gaming or in-person social events. The necessity for all of them and still the desire is still there. So we're looking at trying to make sure that we as creators and also trying to find a platform to create and allow others to pivot and still find themselves sustainable in the creative arts.
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. Can you say a little bit more about Black Futures Month? I know you mentioned that it just ended. What was the inspiration behind it? How did it go?
And I love that name,
I do
Black
too.
Futures Month.
Yes, yes. Come on, Afrofuturism.
Oh, absolutely. So with Black Futures Month, obviously for February, we all celebrate and appreciate the rich history and heritage of Black History Month. What we wanted to do within this time is to look at innovators right now that people can talk to and touch and support actively. That we felt like in these spheres were part of the creative renaissance that we're seeing, particularly among the Black creative diaspora, and give them an opportunity to be recognized in their time. A lot of times we see artists, particularly creatives and especially creators of color, not being recognized for their accomplishments, their achievements, and their impact on our daily lives until, unfortunately, until it's too late, until they're no longer with us. And so, what we thought about for Creative Futures Month is not only recognizing and celebrating their successes right now, but also creating a dialogue to which we see Black people, particularly Black creatives, as part of a speculative future of success. And so, by visioning and showing people, particularly our youth, that there is a future for the Black creative space and creative voices, and our stories will live on in the future, I think it gives us a point of empowerment and an appreciation for what we have with us right now. And so, it's a way that we get a chance to galvanize early in the month and be able to keep that energy that sustain us the
No,
rest of the year.
exactly. And I know one of the classes that we teach a comic book creation course and a class, and we have a pathway forward. And we talk to parents and students about getting into it. And so a lot of them are hesitant, comic books, or I don't know how to draw. But we'll say, okay, it's not about the drawing for you. Like, I know you understand the writing side of things, right? And understanding that they could come from that end. And so what age would you say, or would you be able to give some advice to a parent or a student about getting into animation or trying it out in comic book creation or things, something like that? What advice would you have for them?
Right. I think with that sense is that it's one, not a linear path. There's a lot of parts and points of access that people can be involved in say making a book or making a game. Everybody doesn't have to be visually artistically inclined. You can look for somebody has to write it, somebody has to letter it, somebody has to ink it, somebody has to physically put it together, and somebody has to sell and market it. Right. So there's a particular pathway for a lot of different things that you can still find yourself in those fandoms. Like for myself, speaking to gaming, I work with Skillshot as their developer of partnerships. So I don't directly get a chance to play or develop video games, but what I get a chance to do is to connect endemic and non-endemic brands with esports and kind of show them how to be part of that conversation. And
Right.
so we talk about that a lot, that you don't actually have to be the person or next to the person that's actually playing the game or making the book, but you can find what you're passionate about and make that a career and make that a way to be sustainable and include it in the things that you like to do.
Before we let you go, how can someone who's listening to this, how can they reach out to you? How can they find you? And what are some things you have coming up on the horizon?
Absolutely. So thank you for that. People can reach out to me directly either on LinkedIn or Facebook, or I think on Instagram. I'm Dedren Snead. Not too many Dedrens around, so Dedren. You can find me there. For us at our media side with Subsume, you can find us at subsumelife.com and on social platforms. If you just search for Subsume under that creative banner, hopefully you'll be able to find us there. For us, we have several books coming out in comic book and graphic novel form that we're looking forward to. Likewise, we just finished developing our very first game for a client here in Atlanta for the Atlanta Public School System that we're eager to get some things finalized so we can announce that. We're also working on our next endeavor here for Juneteenth with Subsume, to which obviously we love to be able to bring that Black creative energy and story and legacy that is centered around Atlanta. But again, an invitation to the world to be able to imbibe with this and that. And then there's always just additional social opportunities for us to support each other through COVID, as well as to look just for the daily opportunity to support creative voices.
That sounds amazing. We'll definitely have to have you back as those different things roll out. So congratulations on all of that in advance. We definitely want to, of course, we definitely want to thank you for coming on Gamify, sharing your experience, your story. You dropped a lot of pearls, a lot of nuggets of wisdom that I think will be really useful to the community at large. So we really appreciate you.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate you all and your example and the legacy that you folks are building, and likewise being able to have this type of connection through our community is absolutely necessary. So I appreciate and applaud y'all at the same time. So for all of us, I'm very
Thank
thankful
you.
to have
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Onward and upward.
I mean, that's what we're going to continue to do.
Yes.
We're going to continue to work. We're going to continue to push forward, and we're going to continue to grow together.
Yep.
That's what we're doing. So, Dedren, thanks again, man, and look forward to talking to you soon, and look forward to participating in your upcoming events as well.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thank y'all.